Let's say now that Joe the plumber has a son who has a very rare disease, and he needs to help fund a trial to save this kid's life. He doesn't know where to turn, so he wants to raise money in a tax efficient way that he can then send on to the research team that is conducting this trial. How does he do that?
That's a good question. One really good way to do that is through a nonprofit corporation. So either he can find a nonprofit corporation that's raising money for that particular thing, and he can trust that the money that goes to that corporation is going to the right thing. But alternatively, he or she could decide that he wants to start their own nonprofit corporation and have a little bit more control about what they say, how they go about raise the money, and then how they decide to spend it. The service that they're trying to provide is on behalf of a cause. So they're going out, they're going to ask for dollars. When people give money, they can deduct that from their taxes. So donations to 501c3s, that's the IRS code for a nonprofit corporation, can be tax deductible. So if you give $100, you might be able to save $20 or so on your taxes. So particularly people that are wealthy, if they're trying to reduce the amount of taxes that they pay every year, they may be more likely to give to a nonprofit than to any other type of fundraising mechanism. It just allows you to raise more money. Ability to get donations, right? That people maybe could pay via credit card or check. They don't have the ability or the time and the interest to do that. Then partnering with a group that does it can absolutely be helpful.
What is the difference between a 501c3 and a foundation and a nonprofit? Are any of them synonyms essentially, or are they all
Yeah,
slightly different?
those terms can be used interchangeably a lot. Actually, so the 501c3, I use that term because that's just the name in the law. It's like part 501c3 of the IRS tax code. It's something like that. So that is when the IRS designates you as a nonprofit, then you're a 501c3. You could call yourself a foundation, and a lot of foundations are nonprofits. In fact, probably most of them are. And then ultimately, the type of business that you are is you're generally governed as a nonprofit corporation, which is why like having a board of directors is something that's likely to be required in all cases. Now, a board of directors doesn't have to be a lot of people. It can be a small number of people, but what it does is it says, okay, these are the people that are responsible for watching over the organization, making sure the dollars are spent well, making sure that you're following the right rules. You could start small, a little bit of paperwork, you get that in place, and then you bring in dollars and you explain to people what you're doing with their dollars, and you kind of grow and build credibility from there. It doesn't have to be terribly complex. It's a little bit of a barrier to start, but in general, I think the system is sort of set up to allow people to be innovative and get their foundation set for corporations, whether it's sort of private or nonprofit, and get moving.
Let's say Joe the plumber decides, you know what, I just want to give my all to this cause. And he wants to start up the foundation, let's call it Disease ABC, the ABC Foundation. He's going to rally other families to support it.
Yeah.
If he quits his job, how can he make a living setting this up and running it? There's got to be a way to make a living, right?
Yeah, for sure. I work for a nonprofit corporation. They can hire people, they can pay people, a fair wage. They can provide services and get fees for those things too. If you got raised $1 million for variety sourcing, it's like, hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to raise this amount of money. I want to give as much as I can to this research project, but at the same time, we're gonna have some operating expenses to do this, so it's not just a one-time thing. Think of the Red Cross, right? Lots of people work for the Red Cross. They do great work. They need people to be devoted to that work on a day-by-day basis to do all the things that they need to do, take blood and distribute it, stuff like that. Like the nonprofits and causes need people to be working for them on an ongoing basis. In the same way, look, some hospitals are nonprofit. We have to pay doctors, we have to pay nurses, we have to pay people that work in those hospitals. And when you think about businesses, nonprofits are businesses. Just instead of thinking about the bottom line in dollar terms, they're thinking about the bottom line in terms of like the impact that they're trying to do. So if Joe the plumber wants to get out of plumbing because he's now committed to raising money for Sanfilippo and he has a lot of great ideas, wants to do a lot of programs, he absolutely can do that. He's gonna have to raise the money, he's gonna have to figure out how it all works and keep it going.
Yeah.
All corporations generally have a board of directors, and the board of directors are the ones that are ultimately responsible for determining who they hire, whether they hire staff, and what sort of the work looks like. So if there's like an executive director or CEO or whatever you want to call them, they ultimately report to the board of directors. Sometimes that executive director can sit on the board as well, particularly if they're significantly involved, but generally it involves more individuals than that. So that's one way in which people are held accountable. And ultimately, like the work of the organization is an accountability mechanism to a large degree because when people are giving you their money, they're gonna want to know eventually, like what are you doing with that money? And like if they don't think that your work is worthwhile, you're gonna choose not to give again.
Let's say you have a 5-person board. How would they kind of divide and conquer those traditionally or normally that you've
Yeah,
seen?
I mean, it kind of depends on like where you are, but if you want to get started, you want to do like paperwork. If you got a friend that's done that kind of stuff, maybe either started a business or a lawyer, like that could be helpful. just to think like, oh yeah, I'm going to figure out what it means to just like get this, this place off the ground. I also think
Yeah.
that someone that understands, particularly in this day and age, like social media, if you need to get the word out on what you're trying to do, social media is just the cheapest, most efficient, and a lot of ways most effective way to do that. So someone really who understands how to take like your idea and get it out to people and communicate in an effective way can really, can really do that. But you also really need to think about getting people that care about the cause or really care about you, because sometimes it's going to take a lot of time to get your passion into organized to an organized way. You want people that are giving their time because they care about you and care about the cause. At least one of those, but hopefully both. People that you trust, like, okay, we're going to divide and conquer. We're going to do an event. So someone that's like can understand logistics, maybe has organized walks or something, if that's the kind of thing that you're going to do. I do think it's helpful to have someone that understands money, both like what happens when you have money, how to manage it, how to plan for the future, cash needs you have at different times, or whether you're going to need like a loan or a credit card or something, right? Just dealing with banks so that way you can kind of operate on a day-to-day basis and not even from your own pocket separately. That you want this organization to kind of stand on your own. So I think that's a really good addition as well.